Welcome to the Lead with Impact podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Orson, and I am thrilled to present today's guest, the extraordinary Kirstin Bosworth. Kirstin is a Microsoft Maestro who has been perfecting her craft for 3 decades. Her mission is to help others unlock their full potential by leveraging the best of what Microsoft technology has to offer. She works with managers and leaders of various industries, ages and backgrounds, witnessing firsthand as they rejoice at how much tedious work can be quickly automated when the right tools are made available to them. Her extensive experience, coupled with her uncanny ability to select the perfect app for each person, allows Kirstin to empower those she works with to go on and lead their teams and businesses confidently and efficiently. Hi, it's Michelle Austin from the Lead with Impact podcast. We all know that feeling of being alone and isolated in business. It's tough out there, and it's easy to feel like you're the only one struggling while navigating the business world. But the good news is you're not alone. The Lead with Impact podcast is all about learning from others who have been there and done that. We interview inspiring guests who share their stories, trials, and triumphs so that you can learn from their mistakes and map out your path to success. Each week, we'll bring you inspiring stories, valuable insights, and actionable tips from other business people who are leading with impact. So, if you're ready to learn from others and take your business to the next level, subscribe to the Lead with Impact podcast today. Good morning, everybody, and today we welcome Kirstin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you.
It's awesome to have you. So I'm going to jump right in. How do you think you are different now to what you were a year ago?
Oh, wow. I think the biggest difference is that I've come to realize I needed to be more independent. I needed to be more independent of everyone's expectations. I needed to be more independent of what I perceived everyone's expectations to be. I needed to be independent of my own thought process. And once you let go of that luggage and go, okay, on your own, what are you going to do on your own? If you don't have to be accountable to anyone else, what are you going to do? What are you going to achieve? And that made a huge difference. I suddenly was re-energized. Mm-hmm. I've never struggled with motivation and passion and energy, but it sort of got to a new level where I stopped making excuses. Mm-hmm. I stopped apologizing. Mm-hmm. And that was that independence that I claimed. That was a huge milestone for me. It was a huge milestone.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it takes a lot to realize that, and it takes a lot of self-reflection. Most of the things that you think other people are thinking about you, it's all in your head.
Correct. You think that everybody's thinking about you and evaluating you constantly and measuring you, and then suddenly one day you wake up and go, I think people are too selfish. People are worried about their own lives, their own details. Actually, they're not spending that much time on me. So why am I the one caught up in the cycle? Why can't I just be me? Why can't I just do me? So that independence, that thought process of I don't have to apologize. I suddenly realized, Michelle, how much time I was spending in a day motivating my actions to others. Defending and motivating. And I suddenly realized, I should be in marketing. I really should be in marketing and sales. This is what I'm doing all day. Why am I am now over 50 years old. I have got 2 wonderful, wonderful children. Why am I doing this? And that's when I realized that instead of making excuses, instead of motivating, instead of defending, just be, just do, and get on with it.
Yeah. I did mention this on one of the other podcasts, but I think it's a great saying. And that saying goes, what other people think about me is none of my business.
That is absolutely a great. I mean, we should have T-shirts. That definitely should be T-shirts. Yeah. Absolutely. And that should be a constant reminder to us every day when we look in the mirror. It's none of our business. It's their luggage. It's their drawing, it's their image. It's actually got nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
But and I don't regret it, but I am sad that it took me so long to get here. And so I'm trying really hard to constantly remind my children, especially, and those around me, why get caught up in someone else's story? Write your own story. Tell your own story.
Yeah.
Stand as the lead in your own story. Don't worry about everybody else.
Love that. And something else that I just thought of was often what you're seeing or what you think you're seeing is actually a reflection of you.
And I think that's very true. It's amazing how we can pick up things in other people. And I started realizing that when there was a change in the leadership in the United States. And there was obviously a lot of tweets and interviews going on, and how the particular president at that time of the United States was finding fault in others. And I was like, why do you constantly find fault? Why are you not rejoicing? Why? And then I started thinking to myself, is it because it's all you can see? Is it because it's all you know? So, and I started then reflecting on my own behavior, and I was like, maybe I'm only noticing in others what I know. So yes, maybe it's exactly that. It's a reflection. Because I know what it's like to stumble, because I know what it feels like to be insecure, because I know what it feels like to be afraid, that's what I'm seeing in others. Because I don't know anything else.
Yeah.
I really don't know. So when I started looking for joy and happiness, and then I started seeing it in others, because I started learning in myself what it meant to be happy and to have joy. So yes, I think that plays a huge role. You see what you know.
Yep.
And if you don't know, you can't see it.
So when somebody very close to me often says is you don't know what you don't know.
Correct, 100%.
Yeah.
And it's sad that we only get to know that or realize that so much later. But then again, it's a journey, and it's what builds us. But how different would the journey have been if we knew then what we know now? And it's not even about knowing, it's about having the confidence. To me, it's about that confidence. I want my children and those around me to have the confidence to speak out, to speak their minds, to not be intimidated, to not be afraid, to not lack self-confidence. To me, inside each of us, we've got a message. And I believe this very, very strongly. Inside each of us, we have got a message. For me now, it's become so much more important that we start speaking about that message as early on as possible and not wait until we're 40, 50 years old. I want my children and those around me to speak out earlier. Why wait? What are we waiting for?
Yep.
You know, why?
Yeah.
So to me, that's really important. So I'm very involved with Toastmasters International, and I'm serving at the moment for the district. So for District 74, and we look at 11 countries at the moment. And I'm mentoring some Toastmasters. And the one thing I'm learning through the mentoring, it's amazing self-growth, because now you've got to ask questions and not do all the talking.
Yeah.
And you got to, use your listening skills. So another thing that I'm learning is that these young people do have something to say. They have got something, and they want to be able to say it so that others listen. And that's the difference. And I'm trying to pass that also on to my children and the people I work with, is how do we say it in a way that people will listen? That's I think one of the biggest life lessons. And I really hope that I can pass that down, because I know we've got something inside us to say, but how do we say it that others will actually listen? Because if they don't listen, it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
So, yeah, to me, that's really important.
I love that. Okay, what are you proudest of in your life?
I would have to say working for myself. I would have to say having the courage to say, I'm not going to look for someone else to pay my salary. I can do this. I don't think there's anything wrong about being employed. I think it gives phenomenal opportunities, and it does relieve stress. It's a different type of stress. It's very much a different type of stress. So My sister and I, we're only 18 months apart, and I've always said, she's always said to me, should I go into business on my own? I go, no. It's not your personality. You thrive in a corporate environment, and she's done extremely well in that environment. Whereas for myself, it's not that I'm anti-establishment or I'm anti-boss. It's just I needed to do things my way. And so I'm proud of the fact that I have always been self-employed. There was a while where I worked for others, but it was always on a contract basis. It was always voluntarily, committing to a dream or a project or a vision that they had for a certain period of time. For me, it's being brave enough to say, I'm going to look after myself. I'm going to make this happen for myself. And I don't know if it was the arrogance of youth. What do they say? Hire teenagers now, well, they know everything. I don't know if that's what it was all about. But ever since I was a teenager, I was always going to do it my way.
Some people are just built for it and others aren't.
Correct. It's not that we have less stress or more stress. It's just different. It's different stress, My sister went from working in a corporate to now working in an SME, and she's got totally different stress. And again, but very different to my stress of being self-employed. I wouldn't say it's better. I wouldn't say it's the way to go. I wouldn't encourage anyone around me, the only way to be successful is to be self-employed. I would never say that out loud, because it is. It's definitely personality related. It's character related. It's vision related. It's dream related. Who's going to deliver the best for you? Where are you going to get the most out of a working day for you?
Yeah.
And some people need different, we all need different environments. And for me, it's definitely being self-employed. However, I've come to learn that working in a team is not a bad thing. And it's taken me a while as well to learn that lesson. I'm a slow learner. It's taken me a while as well to realize that working in a team is not a bad thing. I'm not burdening others with work. I had to let go of that.
Yeah.
I always thought that I was burdening others. I always thought that I was making their workload heavy. Let me just quickly do it. I'll just quickly sort it out. I've come to realize that it gives people the opportunity to learn themselves, to acquire skills themselves, to explore themselves. So that took a long time to realize. So I didn't become self-employed to be alone. That I've come to realize. I've been self-employed because I just wanted to do it differently. I just wanted to do it differently. My grandfather said to me a very long time ago, he said, do you know there have been others before you? And there is pathways, there's roads, they've been mapped out. Why do you have to push through the bush? And I'm like, because why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Some days I do want to make my own bush, my own pathway through the bush. Some days I want to walk on other people's roads, but some days I do. I want to do it differently. I homeschooled both my children.
That's incredibly brave.
Again, it was back to the whole thing of education is not perfect. What can we do differently? And it was frustrating me how I was questioning what my children were learning and how they were being taught. So for me, it was, well, you can't sit and moan. What are you going to do about it?
Yes.
So I said, all right, I'm going to homeschool. I'm training other people's children on a daily basis. Why don't I, look after my own children? So my eldest was only in grade 3. She finished grade 3, and then my youngest hadn't even started grade school yet. So I brought them both home, and within a year I was fired. So by both of them. I was too slow, apparently. They wanted to go at a much faster rate. And so we actually did a lot of exploring together, and we did what they call unschooling. So with unschooling, it's not a set curriculum. It's where you find the child's passion. So with my daughter, it was horse riding, and with my other child, it was Minecraft and computer gaming. And now the whole thing is you do science, history, geography, maths, and science relating to that subject. So with the horses, it was all the geography was where are the horses found, what different horses are in different countries around the world, why is it like that, is it climatic, and the whole science behind it is how's the horse's body made up, and how does the heart beat, and so you have to look at ways of sharing education, but through that common interest, that passion. So now the child doesn't even realize that they're learning. It's now just exploring, and that's what we went through. And they did a lot of maths and science that I encouraged a lot, and they did a lot of maths and science, and a lot of I wanted them to have different opinions, and I didn't want it to be a single textbook. But like I said, I got fired because I was taking too long to teach maths concepts and that. So they said, no, Mom, we can divide and multiply and do our timetables, let's move on. And to me, that's exactly how I feel about my business, is that in business, I don't want to give you a predefined package. I don't want to give you a pamphlet. I want to know, what do you need? What do you want? What are you trying to achieve? Let's go find the technology that's going to make that happen. How can the technology assist you? More than how I get very frustrated when people are working around the technology just to get an output. That's not how it's supposed to be. Yeah. For me, the technology was invented to make us lazy, so we shouldn't be working this hard. So for me, it's how do I find technology that's going to make it better for you? So with my children, how am I going to find education that's going to make it better for you? That's I think been my motivator every day of my life, I think, since I was a teenager. It's got to be better. We don't have to accept everything.
We don't have to struggle through everything.
We don't, and this is, again, and I give credit to my grandfather and my father. My father taught me at a very young age, ask 7 whys. So when somebody says something, ask 7 whys. What happened was, by the age of 16, I was asking him 7 whys. So the relationship, became a little bit challenging for a couple of years. But I think it's one of the greatest lessons I was ever given as a child, ever, is I don't have to accept everything. I really don't. And if you can't answer the 7 whys, then do you really believe? Do you really support? Have you really created something that I should follow? If you can't answer the 7 whys? So, and that's what I've tried to install in my children and those around me. We don't have to accept.
Yeah, I love that. I do the 5 whys, not the 7,
yeah.
but I kind of
it's the same
concept.
Principle. Absolutely.
Where it's just digging deeper, and in our case at work, what we do is we try to figure out what the root cause is for something.
Yeah. So that's exactly what you're trying to get to. But to say to somebody, I want to get to the root cause, they're like,
what are you talking about?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. When you gently say, why? And then you're the one with your finger under the table on your hand, counting all the fingers. Are we there yet? But yes, 100%. I didn't even realize that as a kid, that's what my father was teaching me. Get to the root cause. And if the root cause is something you can believe in, if the root cause is something you can support, then it doesn't matter how much it costs or who created it or where it's located. Do it. If it's, like you said to me, if it's boxed wine or it's a vintage wine, if that's where you've landed up, that's where you've landed up. Yeah. But get to that. Yeah. Get to that root cause. Yeah. And to me, there's too many, it's very sad. It's heartbreaking how many people are just doing what others do. And I think this, to me, is why we have cyberbullying at the level that we have cyberbullying. To me, this is why we have crimes against women. This is, for me, it's because people don't question. People don't stop and say, hold on a sec, why? Why am I doing this? Why are you doing this? Why are we doing this? People just say, because he did it. No, that's not an answer. Yeah. And then, yes, I taught my children. So my children also got to an age where, as a mom, I couldn't say just because. It was, yes, okay, let me explain why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm reaching that stage with my son now, and it's tough because
It is.
sometimes you don't feel like they're quite ready for the answers.
And it's time consuming. You can't now be a parent in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, now you got to make time.
Yeah.
But again, it also constantly forced me to rethink. I had to rethink all the time. They would ask questions, and I knew I had to come up with a motivation or an understanding or an explanation, much to their horror. Many times my children did say to me, Mom, this is not a teaching moment. Can we just get to the point? But the whole thing is it forced me to question all the time, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's exhausting,
Yes.
but it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think are the most important lessons that you hope to pass on to your kids?
Question everything. To me, that is absolutely. Question everything except nothing. I don't want to say even question love, but yes, even question love. I've tried so hard to teach them the difference between conditional and unconditional love, and to show them the difference between conditional and unconditional love, because it's funny how so many of us fall into that trap without even realizing, and the harm that comes out of that. So question everything. And yes, if it makes your days longer, well, so be it.
It'll make your day shorter probably in the long run.
I think you would find, I'm hoping they're going to find more joy. To me, that has become my ultimate goal. I want my children to have joy in life, no matter what they're doing, no matter where they are, no matter who they're with. To me, I've come to realize, decades on, again, a life lesson I wish I'd learned earlier, is that, guys, we're here. We are on this planet, probably for 80 years or more. Yes, we have a purpose. But at the end of the day, surely we are supposed to be enjoying this trip. Yeah. Surely. I cannot believe that we were created to be unhappy. To me, that cannot be a fact. We need to have joy. And joy just makes everything so much more worthwhile and easier to do. And your tolerance increases, and your patience increases, and I don't know, life is just so much better.
Like we were talking about just now, is it energizes you
Correct.
as opposed to draining you.
Correct. It feeds instead of drains.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. To me, that's a priority. Being unhappy, to me, has become unacceptable.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. Okay, we'll jump into the work questions now, the productivity questions. Are there any resources that you use that have drastically helped you during your career?
In a productivity sense?
Productivity or, tools type of sense.
So I am crazy about Microsoft. I am passionate about the Microsoft technology. I was very, very privileged. My father bought one of the first commercially available PCs. It wasn't even a PC. It was called a ZX Spectrum, and it was a keyboard, a rubber keyboard that you plugged into a television screen, and you then, this black screen came up with a white flashing cursor. And so we had to code everything that we wanted to create. So by the age of 11, I was coding. And then to record your program, the TV actually made a noise that your tape deck recorded. And it sounded like those old dial-up modems. And that's what our program sounded like. So I was born in the right time, in the right place, to the right family, in the sense that Microsoft then launched MS-DOS, and then they launched Windows, and I was like, wow, pictures on a screen, this is amazing. So I've grown up with Microsoft, and for me, when we used to buy new versions of Microsoft, there was always this really, really thick manual in it.
I remember those.
And nobody read them.
Still don't.
I read them. And what I learned without even realizing it, I started to become aware with time that people were learning habits in the workplace from others sitting next to them. But the people sitting next to them were parting on or sharing what they knew. Whereas technology was creating a completely new, unique environment. And only by reading the manuals did you get an understanding of that baseline, that foundation that this technology was now working off. So with time, I came to realize that everybody was doing what this person had taught them down the line. It wasn't how technology was designed. It wasn't how the electronic world was designed. The electronic world is designed in a completely different way to the mechanical world, the physical world. And so I came to realize, watching other people work, that you can do that quicker. The technology doesn't need you to do it that way. Technology really, really doesn't want you to file. Electronically, it doesn't want you to file. A hard drive in any PC needs to know where that file is 24/7. That's its job. That's its only job. Yeah. But now we're spending so much time moving things into yellow folders and more yellow folders and double clicking on more yellow folders. And so because we had learned from the physical world, from the mechanical world. So for me, the greatest things that I have learned is how technology was designed, how technology was created, and how different technology is to the physical world. And with that understanding, I've definitely saved a lot of time. I've definitely become more efficient in what I do. Back in 2006, I was also introduced to David Allen, who's a productivity guru in the United States. He's written many, many books and has phenomenal workshops. And the book that I read was Getting Things Done. And getting into that and understanding, and seeing what he was talking about and how busy everybody is in the office, and his vision of how overwhelmed we're going to become. I've adapted a lot of what he was talking about. I adapted into my own way of doing business and my own way of getting through my daily tasks and activities, and using the technology and my knowledge of the technology. And now that's what I pass on to others. That's what I pass on to others when I do coaching and training, is I'm not here to teach you how to click on a button and what every button means on the ribbon. I'm here to share with you the tips and tricks and the experience that I've gained over all of these years. And I think it's because, genuinely speaking, I started with the hardware and the software. So by having that unique knowledge of why it was all produced and how it was all produced, gives me that uniqueness in that I know what the technology can do. What do you need it to do? Let's make that happen. Yeah. So yes, Microsoft products definitely have affected my efficiency and productivity. There's no doubt about it. There really is no doubt about it.
None of us very few anyway, use technology to the absolute potential that it's built for, or made for. So I think we can all take a lesson from that.
I think, we don't read user manuals. We really don't read user manuals, and it's not a bad thing, because we're doing what we need to do. In finance, we making sure the debits and credits balance and keeping up to date with the latest laws relating to those debits and credits. I'm keeping up to date with the latest technology developments and what they're inventing and what they're creating. So that's my job, and then once I see something that I know can help you, then it's my job to find you and share that with you. I'm the one reading the user manuals.
Love it. Okay, so when you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, or you've lost your focus temporarily, what do you do? What questions do you ask yourself?
It's a really good question. Wow. I think that my body memory that I'm having right now is I can hear the little voice in my head, just breathe. Just breathe. And when I do feel overwhelmed, or I can see the list of things I've got to do. My tasks have all come up and said, don't forget you got to do this today. And you have that sense of overwhelming. To me, it's a case of, I do say to myself out loud, just breathe. And then, amazingly enough, remind myself that I've done this before. it's not that bad. It really isn't. Why today? Why are you struggling today? Are you tired? Did something emotionally happen? Because you've done this before. You've handled worse before. So I talk to myself a lot. My kids always say, "Oh, Mom, when you start answering yourself, then we're going to have a problem." But I talk to myself a lot, and it's amazing how I think we need to do that on a regular basis, because I think we get caught up in our insecurities. We get caught up in our lack of confidence. We get caught up in our own luggage. I don't think there's anyone that's traveled through life that hasn't collected these pebbles along the way. And sometimes the pebbles rise to the surface. So yes, I try to be as efficient as I can in my productivity, and I use the Microsoft tools, and I'm very list driven. I'm reliant on my to-do planner that Microsoft has designed so beautifully. I'm totally reliant on that. But yes, sometimes that list looks horribly long. But then you're like, but hold on a sec, you've done this before. You've been here before. You know the stuff. I'm a great repeater of the phrase, how bad can it be? How bad can it be? We have the technology to literally fix everything. I'm not talking, we literally do have to fix world hunger and world poverty. We're just not using it at the moment. But we literally have the technology to do anything we want. So how bad can it be? Let's fix it.
Yeah.
Let's fix it. So...
Something that I've learned is that breathing. So I have a bit of anxiety. So every now and again, that overwhelm can really, really take over. And sometimes you just need to break it, and that counting helps to break it.
It's a physical manifestation. I absolutely get that. What I've come to realize is my need for water, amazingly enough. Now, I was born in Johannesburg, but I grew up in Durban, and my whole entire childhood and all my schooling life was down there. And I only came back to Johannesburg when I was 25 years old. And I think I was too young, number one, to realize it. But I've now, with time, I've come to realize how important water is in my life. So I like fountains and water features and waterfalls and rivers and streams and that. So you were talking about that anxiety when it manifests. Sometimes when I get to a stage of, how am I going to get this done? Breathe, and then splashing my face. So literally going to the bathroom or taking a bowl and putting my face into a bowl of water has an amazing effect. So I think as a kid, I used to jump in the swimming pool, go to the beach or whatever. And I think that helped back then. Being at an age now, we don't jump in the swimming pool anymore. But water definitely also. It has an effect. There's something about it. There really is.
I find the same thing. So I always find I'm at my calmest when I'm at the beach. I don't like the sand. I actually don't like the water. But, just let me sit in my car and listen to the ocean.
Listen, 100%.
Like
Those
you say,
waves.
A waterfall or a water feature or something like that.
There's something about it, eh?
I don't know what it is, but
Agreed.
It is calming.
Yeah, no, there is something about it.
Okay, what makes you feel like your best self? What makes you feel inspired?
How do I say that without sounding selfish? No, because for me, I seem to be talking about the same thing over and over again. But for me, I am most inspired or excited when I know technology has a solution. And that's why I say it sounds so selfish that am I focusing on my work and my job too much? But the truth is that, and when I know someone's been struggling and I know somebody is spending a lot of time on something and they're frustrated and they're not happy and they have no joy, and then there's technology, and this technology can just dissolve all of that, I truly get excited. I truly get passionate. I get onto a soapbox and it's really difficult to come down. Does that make me less human because I'm more excited about the machines? I don't know. But if we don't have to be people reliant, I think it's better that we're technology reliant, because people have paths to travel and people have their own story to tell. So if I'm reliant on that, am I holding you back? Am I keeping you back because I'm holding on to you because without you I can't achieve? If I now replace that with technology and this person becomes more independent, more confident, they get more joy, and the technology did that, to me, that inspires me. That makes me really, really happy, because now for me it's almost like the world's become their oyster. They're not tied down anymore.
So
It gives them a freedom.
Yeah, I think so. There's 2 points that I want to make. The first is that I think we have to be selfish in order to be our best selves. I've learned it's been a journey through motherhood.
Isn't that difficult to say out loud, though?
Yeah, it is. It is very difficult to say out loud. But I am definitely not the best version of me when I don't have enough me time. I need to spend some time alone doing things that make me happy. And if I don't do that, then I'm grouchy and I'm cranky and I can't be the best for my boys. So that's the first point that I wanted to make. And then the second point is that I don't think it's what you were saying about technology taking over. I think there's an underlying theme there for me that is very much a human theme. It's I'm helping somebody. And yes, you might be using the tool of technology, but you're helping somebody. And I think that's...
I'm really relieved that came across, because sometimes it worries me that I can be too machine-like or favor the machines. And it worries me sometimes that I'm always looking to technology for a solution. And it worries me that people don't realize that I am truly looking for it to help the human. It's not, I'm not saying that technology is going to replace you or technology is going to, take over what you're doing. I know we've got the tools. It's the caveman only had a rock and a spear. We've got so much more today. Yeah. We don't have to suffer. We don't have to struggle. So yes, thank you, Michelle, that did come across. And I am truly trying to help others. And I think what you're saying about being selfish, it's so difficult to say that out loud, but it's amazing how that time when you are not a wife, you're not a mother, you're not a homeowner, you're not a business owner, just to have that 1 hour or 2 hours in a day when you don't have any of those titles, when you are not wearing any of those hats, I've come to realize how important and precious those are.
Yeah.
And yes, it took all these years to be able to say, I'm not being selfish, I'm actually just refueling.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's guilt. You're a mother. What do you mean I'm going to switch off for 2 hours, today not being a mother? How could I even think of that? How dare I think of that? How can I not be a wife? I made a commitment. I made vows. How can I not be a homeowner or business owner? There's so many responsibilities. But if you don't refuel, just like if we don't take the car to the petrol station, if we don't take that time, yes, it's a dangerous slope. Slippy, very, very dangerous slope.
Yeah. What books have shaped your career the most?
So David Allen, Getting Things Done. And then I was actually speaking about it yesterday. So Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, to me that had a huge impact. But the book that's actually had the biggest impact is called The 2-Minute Manager. So the 2-Minute Manager is this tiny little paperback. I think there's less or just over 100 pages in it. When I picked that up for the first time, I was like, oh, wow, that's quite interesting. But I was young and I wasn't leading a team or I wasn't involved in a team environment. And, I hadn't had children and that type of thing. With time and rereading it over and over again, I've come to realize that to me, that is one of the greatest things that I have implemented in my life. So when you talk about scolding someone or evaluating someone or giving someone negative feedback. If it's longer than 2 minutes, it can destroy them and crush them. And I've seen that with my kids. So, when you get caught up in the heat of the moment and you go off on a rampage and you realize you've been going on for a rampage for longer than 120 seconds, their faces, their little bodies, they physically are cowering. You realize, no, that's enough. You said your bit. You had 2 minutes to say your bit. You had 2 minutes to express your disappointment or your, the missing of your expectations or whatever it was. And that's enough. It really is enough. And then the praise, to praise someone for 2 minutes, because then it's sincere. It's not overkill. It's not sickly syrup pouring out the edges. And everyone is just yawning, going, yeah, she's doing her thing again. How sincere is that? That book and the difference it has made in my relationships and my interactions with others, I'm very proud that almost all the time I'm able to stick to those 2 minutes. And I mean, the book was written for managers, but for me, it's just so relevant in every day of our lives. To take time out to give credit to those that are serving you or assisting you in your everyday life, to take time out and just acknowledge that you see them.
Yes.
And to not stay quiet when something's wrong, but to not lose your cool. To speak properly.
You bring up a very important point, is that sometimes people don't want to speak up, and whatever the reason for that, maybe they're afraid, maybe they're self-conscious, they don't want to talk up because they think it's something small. What I often find is that that's when things start brewing.
Correct.
And that's when it's going to result in an explosion that is going to be longer than your 2 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
And how damaging that can be.
Correct. 100%.
So, I think it's a great principle to apply throughout your life, in personal life and in business life, where you just 2 minutes of praise, and 2 minutes here and 2 minutes there add up to a lot in the long run.
It does. 100%. Michelle, unfortunately, I went through a stage 2 or 3 years where I forgot all my life lessons. And it was sort of a year or two leading up to COVID and then including COVID. I forgot my life lessons and I got sort of caught up in a really bad personal spiral. And I forgot all of those life lessons, and the self-doubt and the lack of confidence, all of that creeped in phenomenally strong. And I really struggled on a daily basis. And it literally it overtook my life for over 3 years. And now that I'm come out of it, and I'm into my second or third year of coming out of it and relearning those lessons or revisiting those lessons, because I've seen the worst of it and experienced the worst of it, now that I'm on you suddenly realize how valuable those lessons were that I was almost taking for granted before that happened to me. And now it's become even more important to me to share them with my children and to share them with those around me, because they're not something to be taken granted for. To be selfish is not something to be taken granted for. It shouldn't be taken for granted. Appreciate it. Take it. Make time in your calendar every day for it. That ask questions, challenge people. This should become our daily habits, not something we read about in books.
Ingrained.
It should be ingrained. It should be part of our DNA. It really should be part of our DNA. They say we were given free will. Where is this free will that we're so proud of and that we fought for? Where is it? It frustrates me that basic gift just seems to be so lacking in our societies today. Would the world not be a better place if we asked more questions?
Yep.
Instead of shouting at each other, instead of trying to over-talk or talk over others, instead of trying to change people's minds, and I say this to my children, it's not your job to change someone else's mind, but it is your responsibility to ask them why. We are not here to change people's. I don't believe we are here to change people's minds, but I do believe we are here to ask Why?
And then maybe let them change their own minds.
Correct. Start a conversation. And that's what I say with what I do in business is people say, oh, so you do training. I get very uncomfortable with it. And over the years, I didn't want to be called a trainer and I didn't want to be called a facilitator. And, you go through all this jargon. And if you don't use the modern jargon, then people can't find you on the internet or social media. And I was always very uncomfortable with all of the jargon because for me, there is no ways I know your day or your needs better than you are. So I am not an expert. All I want to do is start a conversation with you. So, what are you trying to achieve? What are you aiming for? What are you looking for? What's frustrating you? Then we're having a conversation because then I can say, have you seen this technology? Have you seen this option? Have you read this book? Have you, exactly like you're saying. So I don't want to change your mind. That I have no power to do that, but I want to start a conversation. And like you said, ultimately it might change people's minds, and ultimately then they get to use Microsoft products and I can support them, but they don't have to. They really don't have to. Like you are now using Apple. You have chosen that route. To me, that's awesome. That's also very brave. You're also standing up and saying, I'm different.
Listen, I'm glad I didn't do it 10 years ago. I think things have changed.
Yeah, the technology. And your confidence, maybe.
Maybe. True story. True story. Do you think has had the most influence on your life?
Oh, definitely my parents. My mom was always very independent, very driven. Both my parents have got very strong personalities. My father came from quite a traditional Afrikaans background. My mom was a lot Lamaki in her very English environment. And it's how they, with their very strong personalities, how they adapted to each other and learned to work with each other. And they brought us up very strictly with very strong principles and values. So my grandfather, he fought during the Second World War as a fighter pilot, huge influence on me. His attitude was always, never ever apologize for being a girl. What the boys can do, you can do better. And that was right from the beginning, before I even realized that people saw a difference between boys and girls. His wife, Ray, she was from the UK. She worked for the BBC. She was in Africa as a female journalist in the 1970s, traveling through Africa and winning awards. And my mom's parents as well, my grandmother and grandfather on that side. And my grandmother was such a lady, and she embraced being a woman and being feminine. And my grandfather was, stiff upper lip and very stern. So I am very much thankful, have great gratitude for those that came before me in my family. To me, that they've had a huge influence. And then I was very young, and my mom was working for a lady, Joan Brits, and Joan and I just was in awe of how this woman was creating this multi-million-dollar organization. I mean, I was all of 17, 18 years old, and she just epitomized. She was my Oprah Winfrey, you know what I mean? And I was seeing her in real life. So she became a bit of a business mentor for me and encouraged me to step out of the box and to do things differently, which was exactly what she was doing. So she was a great influence on me in business. And then through the years after that, I've met women along the way that influenced me in some way, either as a mother, as a business person, as a socialist, as a capitalist. I've definitely had those relationships along the way. And then I worked with an IT organization for 4 years, and my direct manager there, John T. Collins, he had a huge influence on me in the sense that he never allowed for excuses or apologies. He was one of the first people in my life where I couldn't play the card, I don't know. He was like, then what? How are you going to solve it? How's this going to happen if you don't solve it? So I had to lift up my game in a big way. And he was he gave credit where credit was due, but he never allowed me to be weak or to be slow or uneducated. And that was phenomenally empowering. you know. I started to see my own worth almost because he wouldn't accept anything less, you know. It was like, no. And that had a huge influence on me as well. Huge influence.
Yeah, if I think back to the biggest influences in my life, I must say a lot of them are not women.
Oh, wow.
Which is quite interesting if I think about it. But maybe that's why I'm so passionate about empowering women.
So, and the amazing thing is I've never had huge groups of friends. You know what I mean? If I'm having a birthday, there's not 50 people that I need to invite. I've always had very, very small groups, and I've had different women at different times in my life in the sense that they haven't been short relationships. So Joan was, 10, 15 years, and she was much older than me, but we were close. Ray, my grandmother, was a BBC reporter. We were close. She was a great influencer in my life. When I started lecturing part-time for Varsity College, I met a lady, a girl, same age as me, same height as me. People mistaken us for sisters. Nadine, huge influence on my life. And now I've got a friendship with Jade. I mean, Jade and I, for the last 4 years, huge influence on each other's lives. So yes, when I think about it, not a lot of men since my father and my grandfather, except maybe for John T. But the rest have been women, but individually so, not a group of girls. I've got a phenomenal group of girls now. We call ourselves the Purple Hats, and we say that we are a book club, but we don't read. And we've been a phenomenal support for each other, especially during COVID. We all say we would never have been able to get through COVID without each other. And we are a phenomenally close group. But Jade is genuinely my go-to person at the moment, and has been for years. Yeah. So yes, it's interesting that you say, and that's why my question to you was, do women need to be empowered more? Have we not let go of that yet? What happened? We've been working on this for such a long time. Do people still believe that there are glass ceilings and shackles? And
I think women do. And like we were talking off camera and off mic, is that I think a lot of those ceilings are self-made. They're not there because they're made. They're not there because other people see them. It is a self-perception.
We're boxing ourselves in. Is that what you're saying?
Essentially, yes. So I think
Sure.
that's where I'm passionate about helping women is to help them see that there are no ceilings. They need to break free of their own shackles and shoot for the stars.
Why are we still there though? I mean, aren't we smart enough to have realized how much has changed, or to realize, are we not smart enough to know that we have the same abilities, we have the same brain power? Why are we, my question is, why are we not smart enough? To me, it's never been a question of, a man is smarter than me, or I need a male boss, or that to me has never come up in my vocabulary or in my thought process. And I don't know, actually, now that I'm saying it out loud to you, I just had a thought. I don't know if it's because I've always been involved in IT. So in IT, I never saw gender. I saw the technology and the development of technology and what the technology can do for you. And, I never actually saw gender. So maybe that's the difference. Yes, when you work in technology, especially in those years, everyone around me was male. But it never occurred to me that I was the only female. It was so much more about the technology. It really was more, so my focus has been, instead of, on the technology instead of sideways.
Yeah.
Gender has never, ever been in my headlights. Gender has never been a priority for me.
I think that history plays a massive role. And I think it's a lesson that we need to all learn, is that history shouldn't dictate the present or the future. So I think, it's not just in gender equality, it's in race, it's in a bunch of different things. So I think that it is something that, sometimes we just kind of stuck a little bit in the past, and maybe we need to actually just break free of that and go, why is that determining where I am currently and where I'm going?
One of the big reasons why I wanted to homeschool is as I reminded my children that history is written by the victors. And there are other books, and there are other chronicles, and there are other stories. Please don't read one textbook.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I need you to do before you get whatever qualification you're going, please tell me that you have read more than one textbook. And that's why I encourage them to get onto the internet. And everybody around me got quite upset that I allowed my children to get onto the internet so early. And they were like, Kirstin, it's so dangerous. And I'm like, I'm not letting them loose on the internet and walking away. You know, the computers were always in the lounge. I could see the screens. If you wanted to speak, the microphone had to be on. You couldn't wear headsets. Yeah. So I knew what was going on. But the one thing I love about the internet is everybody can tell their version of the story. There's 100,000 versions. It's not one person's version. It's not one textbook. There's 100,000. So now I can see it when my children and I go to lunch with other adults, and an adult will say something to my child. My child will go, I hear what you're saying, but did you hear about this? Or have you seen this? And they'll go, oh, I haven't. Tell me more about that. I've got really cool friends. But, you know, and a whole conversation starts because we now have different opinions, you know, and to me that's really, really important. To read one textbook to me that's not education.
It's dangerous. It's a slippery slope.
Correct. It's indoctrination. It's not education. And the fact that somebody somewhere gets to decide that that's the textbook your children are going to learn, and that's going to be the version of history that that one person has all that power. So now maybe that's why women are holding on to certain things. Somebody gave them that textbook. Someone gave them that manual. So you can't be angry because they don't know what they don't know.
Exactly. Okay, what do you think is your biggest failure, and what did you learn from it?
Wow. I am far from perfect. So if I have to name one, and I'm not even being funny or facetious, it's taken many, many years to build up my self-confidence. And I've never been afraid. I know that I will survive. I've just never seen the value in what I do. So to me, I always knew I'd get through it, and I always knew I would survive, but I genuinely didn't see the value. So my self-confidence has always been low, even though I've been able to do as much as I've done. My biggest failure is to give up. And that's what happened in those bad years. I stopped fighting. I get disappointed and cross with myself because it's so unlike me not to fight. And my mom and dad always say, okay, you don't have to fight this one. Or can't we, can we just not be passionate this time? And so that's how my personality is. And for some reason, that was devastating when I realized I had stopped. I still to this day don't know why that happened in my life. I don't know what lesson I was supposed to take away from those years. I still don't know what the purpose of that detour on my life was. I'm still very disappointed that I was on that detour, but I'm sure with time there's going to be some lesson. I'll find a reason of why that all happened. But yes, my greatest regret in life is that I stopped fighting.
It's quite interesting. I was chatting about this with another guest the other day about how you need to figure out what that lesson is, because if you don't figure out what it is, it's going to do a full circle and come straight back at you.
From behind.
Maybe in a slightly different form.
But
it will come back at you until you learn that lesson.
Correct. Michelle, you're 100% correct. I have no doubt in your words. Really. 100%. So I do need to find out why I had to go through that or what I was supposed to learn from that. And I get inklings now and then, and I celebrate how different my life is today compared to what it was. And I'm finding joy in so many more things now. So I don't know if that's what it was. I'm waiting for some grand plaque that says this was the lesson. I'm like, where? That I had to take such a major detour. Major for me, really, really major for me. Why? So, yes, I need to explore more. I need to reflect more, and I need to spend time on it.
Yeah.
Because you're right, it will come back
Yeah.
tenfold.
Yeah. Often does. What do you wish your younger self knew about your current profession?
Sure.
We can come back to it if you
Yeah.
want.
So the only thing that pops into my mind is show rather than tell. So, when you're younger and more arrogant and you know the technology, and I was born and emerging into my career at a time when not everybody knew what technology was. We definitely didn't have cell phones. And I mean, much to the horror of your children, they learn you were born before Google. You were born what? There was a world before Google. So not everybody knew what technology was. And because I did, I was very loud and very hyped up and very passionate. And when I think back to it now, I probably was trying to change people's minds. Whereas now I've come to realize that you just have to demonstrate. You just have to show that this is what technology can do. It's up to you to choose. Do you want this difference or don't? So I think if I could go back to my younger self and say, stop shouting, stop telling, rather show. Share and show. So a softer approach.
In my experience as a leader, what I often do, and I've realized, is that people can make up a lot of nonsense by telling you things. So I often say to them,
That is very true.
show me, don't tell me.
That is really true. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great leadership skill to remember. Because that is very, very true, Michelle.
What's something about your industry that has surprised you lately?
The jump in automation and how automation has been brought to the desktop. And when I say desktop, I don't mean desktop computers, to the office, the working table. Automation or artificial intelligence was always this thing that big machines were going to use, and you needed to be a coder and a propeller head, a programmer to actually make all of this happen. And in the last 18 months, it is literally inside every device, and it's accessible to everybody. It's a drag and drop environment. You don't have to be some great brainiac to automate. And to me, that is just, it's phenomenal. It's next level that we're operating at. You have the chatbots now where you can ask a question. And
It is insane.
the artificial intelligence that we are now sitting with in our little devices, to me, is phenomenal. And I mean, it's literally happened in the last 18 months, overnight.
How do you help a new employee understand the culture of your organization?
Michelle, it's not really relevant to me because I don't bring on staff. I work with people independently. I work with people as we need for certain.
So you'll hire like contractors.
So it's contractors, freelancers. As I bring in the skills that I'm lacking or that I need. So I don't have to onboard or introduce a culture. However, saying that out loud, I also have a work ethic. So when I do bring people, into my space, into my service delivery for my client,
It's still your brand, essentially.
correct. And also that client is the most important person in the relationship. So I have expectations and I have standards. So yes, in the past, the most repeated feedback that I've got is, Kirstin, your standards are too high. And I always, when I was given that feedback, I literally, my jaw always used to drop because I'm like, how's that possible? That someone's standards can be too high. I don't understand it. I really couldn't relate to it, and I still can't relate to it today. We have the technology, we have the skills, we have the brain. Surely we should deliver.
Yeah.
So to me, it is very much about service delivery. I'm not a workhorse. Other leaders in the world, they expect their staff to work at 2:00 in the mornings. I'm not that type of leader, that I'm obsessive. But I am that type of team leader that there's expectations and I don't want excuses. And that's how you use your time is very much up to you. And whether you want to work the whole night through or if you want to work the whole day through, that's very much up to you. But this is the deadline or this is the expectation or this is the milestone, whatever it might be.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I agree with that completely. What is one characteristic that you think every leader should possess?
The ability to take feedback. To me, it's been an eye-opener that when people get into a position of leadership or management, there becomes an attitude or a philosophy that it's one-way communication. And so they're allowed to evaluate, they're allowed to give feedback, they're allowed to encourage, improvement in skills and talent and whatever it might be. And so few actually say, well, what about me? What how am I doing? What can I do better? How can I improve? And to me, that's sad. That is very sad. So I encourage those around me to give me feedback and not even formal feedback. We don't have to fill in a form, but tell me how I am doing as your leader. Tell me how I am doing in managing your time or your expectations, whatever it might be. To me, that's important because you don't suddenly become perfect because you're a leader. You're not suddenly perfect because you're now managing a team. It did not happen overnight. Also, your team changes. So the way you lead is going to have to be dynamic. And there might be and evolve. And there might be times that you're really good at that particular stage or situation or context. The situation and context might change. And that's no longer your strength or your developed area. And that area needs to be developed. So like I said to you, as a team leader, I didn't want to burden my team. So I was always doing everything. And then couldn't understand why my team wasn't sustainable until someone pointed out to me, but they're not learning. You're not giving them you're not giving them opportunity to learn. And that's when I realized how important it is for us as leaders or as managers or as team leaders to take that feedback, to open to that feedback, to want that feedback. If someone hadn't pointed it out to me, I would never have known better.
I think there's two challenges that I've experienced with that. And one is that sometimes you feel like the feedback might not be relevant. And it's very difficult to figure out what is relevant and what is not relevant. But you also need to be able to have those conversations with people to go, like you said with the 7 whys, why do you feel that way? And then keep digging a little bit more to find out what actually is the issue, as opposed to just going, you didn't greet me this morning.
Yes.
Or whatever. I mean,
correct, 100%. There's something more to it.
Yes.
The fact that you didn't greet me this morning is probably doesn't make you a bad leader.
Yeah.
There's something else to it. Something else is happening. So, and to me, that's so important, is we cannot choose who to lead. If you're going to be a leader, you need to lead others. You can't choose who you lead. So to understand how they want to be led is one thing, but to understand how they need to be led is a different thing. So yes, I agree with you. When you're getting that feedback, there's so much to filter through, but at the same time, we need to listen because there's something there.
Yeah.
They are feeling that way for a reason. There's a catalyst.
Yeah.
There's something's happened. And like I said, life shouldn't be this difficult. So there's got to, to me, I've seen it so often where leaders are almost insecure or they don't think that their team is worthy enough to have an opinion. It frustrates me. And the whole thing is, they are the ones being led. So having a better understanding of what they are expecting or what they're needing, absolutely, you don't have to bend over backwards. But allowing them to give you feedback of what works and what doesn't work, surely that makes your job easier, surely?
Yeah.
Surely? So to me, feedback.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What habits do you have that you use to take care of your mental health?
So time for myself, that has become critical. And the one thing that I've come to realize is that watching YouTube or watching Netflix, or, people say they go to movies and that, to me, I get too emotionally invested. So I'm not actually healing. So I've come to realize reading to me, that makes a huge difference. It calms me, it centers me. I'm not as emotionally invested. So that plays a huge role. And my greatest lesson has been being selfish. And that it's taken so long to realize how important that is. And to realize that mental health is not a weakness. And I think that's what took the longest. When people say, how do you look after your mental health, or, how are you doing mentally? To me, it was always, I can't let anyone know that today I'm struggling or today it's tough. And I remember actually asking my mom a long time ago, how did you make it look so easy? Why do I feel like I'm the only one struggling? And my mom said, of course I struggled. And to me, it was not an option to let people know that I was struggling, because I thought it was a weakness. Only to learn years and years later, that I was struggling because I was not resting, because I was not being selfish, because I was not looking after myself. And now I selfishly give myself time to feed me, my soul, my mind, my heart, and not have any of those roles and titles just for a short little period. It makes a huge difference. And to stop defending or making excuses that I need to do that.
Yeah. Wow. Listen, I think it's a great insight that, your mental health was struggling because you're not giving yourself enough time.
It took a long time. But when you get there, it's like, this doesn't have to be what it is. This is fixable. This isn't a permanent condition. And to me, when I realized that was a huge weight off my shoulders. I don't have to be like this all the time. We can actually improve this. We can actually fix it. And to me, the biggest struggle though, Michelle, was to stop making excuses, to stop defending it. I came to realize that to make time for me, I was spending so much time defending it to others, explaining away why I needed to be selfish. And when I realized that was not right.
You almost need to be selfish to be selfless.
Correct. Absolutely correct. That's very true. Yeah. Not even almost. That is a truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be selfish, to be selfless.
Yeah. Okay. What is your top strategy for success?
Adding value. So for me, people will always find time, money, whatever resource it is, if they can see the value. They won't ask the price. They won't ask how long it's going to take if they can see the value. So for me, I get very excited when I have repeat customers. Because they're volunteeringly coming back for more. And to me, that's because surely they're seeing the value. Why else would you come back? I mean, we go back to the same restaurant because the food's delicious, and we want to have that experience again. So for me, if I can add value, people will find a way to have that value in their business, in their daily lives, in their daily tasks. And so and I think that's true no matter what you're doing. So if you're adding value to a relationship, whether it's a spouse or a partner or your children, you will be sought out. If you are adding value in your company, you will be sought out. If you are adding value to your customers, you will be sought out. People won't let go of value easily. So to me, if we can add value, again, what you were saying, feed, not drain. If we can add value, how can we not be successful?
I love that. Really love that.
Okay, good. I'm hoping I'm making sense through all of this.
Yeah, it is something that I try to apply in my business relationships, and it isn't something that I'd thought about in my personal relationships, but I think it is, if you, like you say, if you can add value in anybody's life, why wouldn't you? Okay, and then where can people go to find out more about you?
So I have a website. So my company Optimus XL, I based it on Optimus Prime from the Transformers, big fan. And the company name is Optimus, but without the U. So only you are missing from my life. So it's Optimus XL for the X and the L for extra large, but it's play off Microsoft's XL. So Optimus XL online. I have a webpage. I'm also on LinkedIn. And I think that's where I am on the web. I don't think I'm anywhere else.
Awesome. Thank you, Kirstin. I really appreciate your time today. It's been a really insightful discussion, and we hope to chat to you again soon.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. It's really been an awesome morning. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you
and
so
letting
much.
me talk so much. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
As we wrap up this enriching conversation, I want to extend my warm thanks to Kirstin Bosworth. Her practical advice and stirring narratives have given us new perspectives and will surely help guide our future decisions. Kirstin, your insights have truly stirred our minds, an undeniable source of inspiration.